Origins of Babylon, the Red Horse, Force, War, and System Collapse. Chapter 1. The Red Horse. You think war is failure. You think conflict happens because something went wrong, because leadership failed, because diplomacy broke down. But Scripture reveals something very different. In the book of Revelation, chapter 6, it is written, "And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another." This is not confusion. This is not accident. This is permission. Peace is taken. Not lost. Not misplaced. Taken, and when peace is removed, something replaces it. Not order, not clarity, but conflict. So now we must ask a different question. Not why is there war, but why was peace removed? Chapter 2. Force as a system tool. Force is not where control begins. It is where control goes when everything else begins to weaken. A system is first believed, then it is accepted, then it is followed, then it is enforced. And when enforcement is resisted, force is introduced. This is the progression: belief, submission, enforcement, force. So force is not the foundation of power. It is the exposure of weakness. Because if a system were truly stable, it would not need to force compliance. Chapter 3. Internal force, control within. Empires do not only use force outward, they use it inward. In Egypt, the people were placed under taskmasters. In Exodus, it is written that their lives were made bitter with hard bondage. In Rome, crucifixion was not just punishment, it was demonstration. It was placed publicly, so that everyone could see what happens when you resist authority. This is what internal force does. It does not just punish. It communicates. It says this is the boundary, this is the cost. And through that, order is maintained. Chapter 4. External force. Expansion. Force is not only used to control what is already established. It is used to take what has not yet been controlled. Every empire follows this pattern. It begins with internal order, but it does not stop there. It expands. Babylon did not remain within its borders. It moved outward. Persia did not remain contained. It moved outward. Greece, Rome, all followed the same pattern. And in the book of Daniel, we are shown this progression. Kingdom after kingdom, each rising, each expanding, each becoming stronger than the last. But notice something. None of them expanded through peace. Expansion requires pressure, pressure requires resistance, and resistance requires force. So, expansion is never neutral. It is the extension of control into places where control did not exist before. And when that happens, peace is removed. Chapter 5. When business becomes war. Now we must look deeper. Because one of the greatest deceptions in history is not violence itself, but what violence is called. Violence does not begin when we call something war. Violence begins when power begins to expand beyond its boundaries. In the late 1800s, a meeting took place, the Berlin Conference. It was presented as organization, coordination, and governance. But what was actually happening was the division of land, the claiming of territory, and the control of people. It is not unlike manifest destiny in North America. These instances were not called war. It was called agreement. It was called expansion. It was called business. But let us make this clear. Violence does not become righteous because it is organized, and conquest does not become acceptable because it is agreed upon. European powers moved inward into lands they did not build, among people they did not govern, and they did not arrive peacefully. They arrived with force. New weapons made this possible. New systems made this efficient, and millions died. But history does not always call this war. So what changed? Did the violence change? No, the violence remained the same. What changed was the direction. When violence is directed outward, it is called expansion. When it turns inward, it is called war. Let me say that to you again. When violence is directed outward, it is called expansion. When it turns inward, it is called war. And when it is called war, the world pays attention. But when it is called business, it is often ignored. Let that sit with you for a moment. Chapter 6. Peace, taken through narrative. Now we go deeper, because not all force is physical. Some force is psychological. Some force is narrative. Peace can be removed before a single weapon is fired. A situation is presented. A problem is introduced. A reaction is produced. And then, magically, right on time, a solution is offered. And through that process, people accept outcomes they would have resisted if presented directly. This is not accidental or coincidental. This is a science. This is how perception is shaped. And Scripture warns us about this. It speaks of deception. It speaks of strong delusion. It speaks of believing a lie. So peace is not only removed by violence, it is removed by confusion. Division is created. Fear is amplified. Understanding is distorted. And by the time conflict arrives, the people are already prepared to accept it. So when the red horse moves, it does not begin with blood. It begins with belief. Chapter 7. War as a system function. Now we must confront something difficult. War is not always a failure of systems. Sometimes it is the function of them. War resets control. War redistributes resources. War reshapes power. And when systems reach a point where they can no longer maintain stability, through agreement alone, they shift. They move into force. And this has happened again and again and again. Throughout history, violence has been used to sustain systems that benefit a few at the expense of many. This is not random. This is pattern. Chapter 8. Chaos in Scripture. 2nd Esdras. Now we must understand what happens when peace is fully removed. Because the red horse does not only bring conflict, it brings instability. In 2 Esdras chapter 5, we are shown a picture of what the world looks like when systems begin to break. It speaks of friends fighting one another, not strangers. Friends. It speaks of fear covering the earth, not in one place, but everywhere. It speaks of unnatural signs, blood appearing where it should not, the natural world behaving in ways it was not designed to behave. Now understand this clearly. This is not just poetic language. This is a description of systemic breakdown. Because when peace is removed, stability follows it. And when stability is gone, everything begins to fracture. Relationships fracture. Communities fracture. Nations fracture. and eventually, reality itself begins to feel unstable. This is what happens when the red horse has fully moved. Chapter 9. Pattern in history. Now we must look at the world around us, because Scripture gives us the pattern, but history shows us the repetition. There have been moments in time where entire populations declined because of war, where land that was once active became quiet because of war, where systems that once appeared stable collapsed because of war. And when these things happen, the effects are not only social, they are environmental. Land changes, forests return, climate shifts. There are perspectives that connect these moments to the judgments and scattering described in Scripture. Some point to migrations described in 2nd Esdras, to lands beyond the known world, to people who would dwell in isolation. Others look at the collapse of populations and the changes that followed, and see echoes of the curses spoken in Deuteronomy. Not all will agree on these connections, but the pattern itself is undeniable. When violence expands unchecked, when systems consume people instead of serving them, when power is maintained at all costs, the result is not stability, it is collapse. Chapter 10. Israel versus Babylon. Now we must bring this back to Scripture, because this is not just about history. This is about identity. Scripture shows us two systems, biblical Israel and Babylon. Biblical Israel represents covenant, relationship, order under the Most High. Babylon represents system, control, power structured by men, and these two systems do not align. One restores, the other consumes. One is built on obedience, the other is built on control. And throughout history, the people of the Most High have found themselves inside systems that do not reflect Him. This is the tension, and this is why the red horse matters, because force is what keeps Babylon in place. Chapter 11. The system fully revealed. Now we can see the system clearly. It is not random. It is structured. Religion shapes belief. It tells people what is right, what is acceptable, what is required. Narrative shapes perception. It tells people what is real, what is happening, what it means. Economics creates dependence. It determines what people can access, what they need, what they rely on. Politics enforces structure. It turns belief into law, perception into policy, dependence into obligation. And when all of that is resisted, force is activated. This is not theory. This is the structure of Babylon, and the red horse is the mechanism that enforces it. Chapter 12. Escalation. Now we must understand something that most people overlook. When systems are threatened, they do not retreat. They escalate. Not sometimes, not occasionally, consistently, because a system that depends on control cannot survive without it. So when belief begins to weaken, the system responds. It does not step back. It leans in. Narrative becomes stronger. Messages become louder. Fear becomes more present. Because if people stop believing, they will stop complying. And if they stop complying, the system begins to lose control. So narrative intensifies. But what happens when narrative is no longer enough? Then pressure increases. Economic pressure, Restrictions, limitations, dependence becomes tighter. Because if people cannot be convinced, they can be constrained. But what happens when people begin to resist even that? Then the system moves to its final layer, force. This is escalation. And this is not accidental. This is built into the structure itself. Because Babylon does not release control willingly, it tightens its grip until it breaks. Chapter 13. Collapse from within. Now we must understand the limit of force, because force can sustain a system, but it cannot stabilize it. There comes a point where the pressure becomes too great, where the system can no longer hold itself together. And when that happens, the collapse does not begin from the outside. It begins from within. Leaders begin to compete, not cooperate. Power begins to divide, not unify. And what once functioned as one structure becomes many competing parts. Now think about this carefully. The same force that was used to control others is now turned inward. The same mechanisms that enforced unity now enforce conflict, and the system begins to consume itself, not because it was attacked, but because it could no longer sustain the pressure it created. This is the breaking point. This is where empires fall. Chapter 14. The Eagle. To Esdras. Now we return to what was already shown in Scripture. In 2 Esdras, a vision is given of a great eagle. This eagle is not just symbolic, it represents a kingdom, a system of power, a structure that rises above the earth and extends its influence across it. It grows, it spreads, it dominates. Its wings stretch over nations. Its presence covers the land. Sound familiar? But then something begins to change. The heads begin to fight. Not external enemies, internal divisions. The structure weakens, the unity breaks, and the system begins to do something unexpected. It begins to devour itself. Now understand the significance of this. The destruction is not initiated from the outside. It comes from within the system itself. The same structure that once brought order now produces conflict. The same power that once unified now divides. And the eagle falls, not because it was conquered, but because it collapsed under its own weight. Chapter 15. The lion, Yahusha. But the vision does not end with collapse, because collapse is not the final step. Judgment is. After the eagle begins to fall, another figure appears, a lion, and the lion speaks. Now pay attention to this. The lion does not negotiate. The lion does not attempt to repair the system. The lion does not try to reform what was broken. The lion judges it. It exposes it. It reveals what it truly is, and it declares its end. Now understand what this means. The system is not corrected. It is replaced because what it attempted to take was authority that never belonged to it. And when that authority returns, everything built in opposition to it falls. Chapter 16. Final revelation. Now the pattern is complete, not partially, completely. Systems rise. Through agreement, they expand. Through structure, they maintain. Through force, they escalate. When threatened, they collapse. Through internal conflict, and they are judged by the authority they tried to replace. This is the full cycle. This is what the red horse begins. Not just war, not just conflict, but the removal of peace. That leads to instability, that leads to escalation, that leads to collapse. The red horse is not the end. It is the beginning of the end. So now the question changes. It is no longer, why is this happening? It becomes, do you recognize the pattern? Because you are not just reading about this. You are living in it. You are watching it unfold. And the only question that remains is this. Do you see it while it is happening? Closing. May our Father's peace be with you. The ministry is the walk. Remember, our Father blesses motion and obedience to His word. Get it in you. Live it. Shalom.
Book of 2nd Esdras, or 4 Ezra, 11th chapter, starting at the first verse. Then I saw a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. And I saw, and behold, she spread her wings over all the earth, and all the winds of the air blew on her, and were gathered together. And I beheld, and out of her feathers there grew other contrary feathers, and they became little feathers and small. But her heads were at rest. The head in the midst was greater than the others, yet it rested with the residue. Moreover, I beheld, and lo, the eagle flew with her feathers, and reigned upon the earth, and over them that dwelt therein. And I saw that all things under the heaven were subject unto her, and no man spake against her, no, not one creature upon the earth. And I beheld, and lo, the eagle rose upon her talons, and spake to her feathers, saying, Watch not all at once, leap every one in his own place, and watch by course. But let the heads be preserved for the last. And I beheld, and lo, the voice went not out of her heads, but from the midst of her body. And I numbered her contrary feathers, and behold, there were 8 of them. And I looked, and behold, on the right side there arose 1 feather, and reigned over all the earth. And so it was that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more. So the next following stood up and reigned, and had a great time. And it happened that when it rained, the end of it came also, like as the first, so that it appeared no more. Then came there a voice unto it, and said, Hear thou that is born rule over the earth so long. This I say unto thee, before thou beginnest to appear no more. There shall none after thee attain unto thy time, neither unto the half thereof. Then arose the third, and reigned as the others before, and appeared no more also. So went it with all the residue one after the other, as that every one reigned, then appeared no more. Then I beheld, and lo, in the process of time, the feathers that followed stood up upon the right side, that they might rule also. And some of them ruled, but within a while they appeared no more. For some of them were set up, but ruled not. After this I looked, and behold, the 12 feathers appeared no more, nor the 2 little feathers. And there was no more upon the eagle's body, but 3 heads that rested, and 6 little wings. Then saw I that 2 little feathers divided themselves from the 6, and remained under the head that was upon the right side. For the 4th continued in their place. And behold, and lo, the feathers that were under the wing thought to set themselves up, and to have the rule. And I beheld, and lo, there was one set up, but shortly it appeared no more. And the second was sooner away than the first. And I beheld, and lo, the two that remained thought also in themselves to reign. And when they so thought, behold, there awakened one of the heads that were at rest, namely it that was in the midst, for that was the greater than the two other heads. And then I saw that the two other heads were joined with it, and behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the two feathers under the wing that would have reigned. But this head put the whole earth in fear, and bare rule in it over all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression. And it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been. And after this I beheld, and lo, the head that was in the midst suddenly appeared no more, like as the wings. But there remained the two heads, which also in like sort ruled upon the earth, and over those that dwelt therein. And I beheld, and lo, the head upon the right side devoured it that was upon the left side. Then I heard a voice which said unto me, Look before thee, and consider the thing that thou seest. And I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion chased out of the wood, and I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle, and said, Hear thou, I will talk to thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, Art not thou it that remainest of the four beasts, whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them? And the fourth came, and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression. And so long dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. For the earth hast thou not judged with truth. For thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, thou hast loved liars, and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and hast cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. Therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up unto the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. And the highest also hath looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And therefore appear no more, thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body, that the earth may be refreshed, and may return, being delivered from thy violence, and that she may hope for the judgment and mercy of him that made her. Peace be unto you, brothers and sisters. Peace be unto you. The name of tonight's message is The Fate of Mystery Babylon. The Fate of Mystery Babylon.